The bright morning sun streamed through the tall windows of the United Nations Space Command Center as Admiral James Miller stared at the massive screen before him. His coffee had gone cold, forgotten in his hand as the impossible message played again and again. After decades of searching the stars, humanity had finally received its first alien contact. But it wasn't the peaceful greeting everyone had hoped for. The message was simple and terrifying. Your world belongs to the Starborn Empire now. Surrender your resources and accept your place, or face extinction. Miller's weathered face remained stone still as he watched his staff scramble around the command center. 30 years in the Space Force had taught him to keep his emotions in check, even when his gut twisted with dread. The aliens had given Earth 6 hours to respond. That was 5 hours ago. "Sir, they're broadcasting again," called out Lieutenant Davis from his monitoring station. The main screen flickered to life, showing a massive ship hanging over New Delhi. It was beautiful in a terrible way, all sleek lines and gleaming metal, stretching nearly 2 miles from end to end. "Get me the Indian government on the line. Now," Miller barked, but he already knew it was too late. The alien ship's underside began to glow with a sickly green light. The room fell silent as they watched helplessly. The green light intensified, and then a beam shot downward. There was no Hollywood explosion, no dramatic fireball. Instead, the beam simply erased everything it touched. Buildings, streets, people, all turned to fine ash that drifted away on the wind. In 3 minutes, the heart of New Delhi, a city of 20 million people, became a perfectly circular crater of glass. "My God," someone whispered in the suddenly silent room. Miller's coffee cup shattered on the floor. The alien message played again. "This is but a taste of our power. You have 1 hour remaining to surrender." Miller straightened his uniform and turned to face his staff. "Get me the Security Council. And someone find Colonel Roberts. I need to know if the Artemis Protocol is ready." Within 20 minutes, the world's most powerful leaders gathered virtually in an emergency session. Their faces filled smaller screens around the command center, each showing the same mix of shock and fear. The President of India was notably absent. "They'll hit more cities," Miller told them, his voice steady. "We can't stop them with our current defenses, but we're not as helpless as they think we are." The Chinese premier spoke up first. "The Artemis Protocol. That was deemed too expensive, too paranoid. We barely funded it." Miller allowed himself a grim smile. Colonel Roberts didn't let that stop her. "She's been building our insurance policy for 15 years, off the books, in the asteroid belt. We have ships, real warships, not just the exploration vessels everyone knows about." "How many?" asked the U.S. President. "Enough to make them regret choosing Earth as their first target." The Russian president leaned forward. "You're suggesting we fight back against an empire that can vaporize our cities." "I'm suggesting we show them why you don't back humans into a corner," Miller replied. "We've got 30 minutes until their deadline. I need unanimous approval to activate the Artemis Protocol." For a long moment, no one spoke. The President of France finally broke the silence. "The alternative is slavery or extinction. I vote yes." One by one, the others agreed. As the last vote came in, Miller was already sending the coded message to Colonel Roberts' hidden base in the asteroid belt. Years ago, people had called her paranoid for insisting that humanity needed a hidden fleet. Now she would be called humanity's savior, if they survived. "Sir," Lieutenant Davis called out again. "Multiple alien ships entering the atmosphere. They're positioning over London, Beijing, New York, Moscow, and Tokyo." Miller watched the tactical display as red dots appeared over major cities worldwide. The aliens were done with demonstrations. This was the real attack. "How long until Colonel Roberts can deploy?" he asked his communications officer. "She says the fleet needs 20 minutes to power up and exit the camouflage docks." Miller nodded slowly. 20 minutes. They just had to hold on for 20 minutes, and humanity would show these Starborn that they had made a terrible mistake. Earth wasn't some helpless primitive world to be conquered. It was humanity's home, and they would defend it with everything they had. "Send one message to all our military commands worldwide," Miller ordered. "Tell them, hold on, help is coming. Today we show them what humans can do." 15 years earlier, Colonel Anna Roberts stood in a hidden chamber deep inside asteroid ARX 249, watching robots construct humanity's first real warship. The massive vessel took shape piece by piece, its dark hull designed to blend in with the asteroid's surface. This wasn't the shiny exploration ship shown in space agency photos. This was a Predator, built for war. "They think I'm crazy," she said to Captain Reed, her second in command. "The UN Security Council calls it a waste of resources. They say we should focus on peaceful space exploration." Reed watched the construction through the thick observation window. "What changed their minds enough to give us even this much funding?" Roberts pulled up a recording on her tablet. The sound was scratchy, filled with static, but clear enough to make out patterns. This signal came from the direction of Alpha Centauri 3 years ago. It wasn't random space noise. It was an encrypted military transmission. "How can you be sure?" "Because it uses similar encryption patterns to what we use. Whoever sent it, they think like us. They plan like us. And they're close." Roberts put the tablet away. "We're not alone out here, and I'm betting not everyone we meet will be friendly." The memory faded as Roberts now stood on the bridge of that same warship. 15 years later, the vessel, named Shadow of Earth, was no longer alone. 11 other warships floated nearby, hidden among the asteroids. Each one represented years of secret work, powered by technology that the public wouldn't see for decades. "All ships report ready, Colonel." Reed's voice came through the command channel. He now captained his own vessel, the Night Striker. "The aliens haven't detected us yet." Roberts watched Earth on her main screen, saw the alien ships positioning themselves over major cities. Admiral Miller's warning had reached them just in time. She had hoped they would never need these ships, but she had built them anyway. Now, humanity's survival depended on her foresight. "Begin power-up sequences," she ordered. "Activate the dark matter drives. Load all rail guns. Ready the plasma torpedoes." The bridge came alive with activity as her crew carried out her commands. 15 years of preparation were about to be tested. Roberts thought back to all the secret meetings, the hidden funding, the thousands of workers sworn to silence. They had built these ships using a combination of theoretical technology and reverse-engineered alien tech, salvaged from a small scout ship they had found crashed in the Kuiper Belt. That discovery had proved her right. Aliens were real. They were advanced, and some of them were hostile. The scout ship's databanks had revealed the existence of several alien empires, including the aggressive Starborn. "Enemy ships are powering up their main weapons," her tactical officer reported. "They're targeting Earth's cities." Roberts took a deep breath. This was the moment that would decide humanity's fate. "All ships, activate stealth systems. Move into attack formation Delta. Remember your training. These aliens think they're superior, but they've never fought humans before. Let's show them why that was a mistake." The 12 ships of humanity's secret fleet glided out of their hiding places, their dark hulls barely visible against space's backdrop. Thanks to the reversed-engineered alien tech, they could move without being detected. The Starborn were about to learn that humanity had teeth. "First target is the ship over New York," Roberts commanded. "All ships, lock on with rail guns. Fire on my mark." She watched as the alien vessel prepared to fire its devastating weapon. Not this time. Not her planet. Fire. 12 rail guns fired simultaneously, sending projectiles at near-light speed toward the alien ship. The impacts were devastating. Before the Starborn vessel could raise its shields, multiple holes appeared in its hull, venting atmosphere and crew into space. The mighty ship listed to one side, its weapon powering down. "All ships, new targets. Protect our cities." Show these aliens why you don't threaten Earth. Roberts felt a fierce pride as her fleet engaged the enemy. The Starborn had expected to find a helpless, primitive world. Instead, they had walked into humanity's trap. The battle for Earth had begun, and humanity was ready. The battle raged across Earth's orbit as humanity's hidden fleet engaged the Starborn invaders. Admiral Miller watched from the command center as Colonel Roberts' ships struck from the shadows, appearing and disappearing like ghosts in the night. The alien ships, despite their advanced weapons, struggled to track the human vessels. "Sir, look at this." Lieutenant Davis pointed to a tactical display. The alien ship over Moscow was spinning in circles, firing at empty space. "They can't lock onto our ships. The stealth systems are working better than we hoped." Miller allowed himself a small smile. The aliens had superior firepower, but they fought like machines, predictable and inflexible. Human captains thought differently, using asteroids as cover, executing complex maneuvers, and striking from unexpected angles. On the shadow of Earth, Colonel Roberts coordinated the defense. "Captain Reed, take your group and protect the southern hemisphere. Team 2, with me, we're going after their command ship." Her fleet had already destroyed 3 alien vessels and damaged 4 others, but more kept coming through some kind of portal near Mars. The Starborn commander's voice boomed across all channels, filled with rage and disbelief. "Impossible. You are primitives. Where did you get this technology?" Robert switched to an open channel. "We built it ourselves. Here's another human invention for you to think about." She pressed a button, launching a new weapon they'd developed, a cloud of millions of tiny robots that attacked the alien ship's sensor arrays like metal-eating insects. The alien ships began firing wildly as their targeting systems went dark. Human gunners took advantage of the chaos, their rail guns punching through alien armor with deadly accuracy. The space around Earth filled with debris as more Starborn ships fell. But the aliens weren't defeated yet. Their command ship launched some kind of energy pulse that fried electronics on 2 human vessels. The crews switched to backup systems, another human innovation the aliens hadn't expected. No one in Colonel Roberts' fleet trusted any system without a backup. "They're falling back to Mars," Davis announced in the command center. The surviving alien ships were retreating, gathering around their portal. "Wait, they're doing something to the portal. Energy readings are off the charts." Miller's eyes widened as he realized what was happening. "Roberts, they're going to overload it. Get your ships clear." The warning came just in time. The alien portal exploded with the force of a small sun. The blast destroyed 2 more alien ships that were too close, but the rest escaped through smaller portals that opened around them. The human fleet, warned in time, had taken cover behind Mars. When the light faded, Earth had won its first major victory. The sky was clear of alien ships, though the cost had been heavy. 2 human ships were destroyed, 3 damaged, and the cities the aliens had attacked would take years to rebuild. In the command center, Miller received reports from around the world. Despite the aliens' initial strikes, most of Earth's military and industrial capacity remained intact. More importantly, they had captured intact pieces of alien ships, including a partially working portal device. "Sir," Davis called out, his voice excited. "You need to see this. We're decoding their communications. The Starborn. They're scared. They're calling us Shadow Warriors and the Ghost Fleet. They've never failed to conquer a world before." Miller nodded grimly. "Send all the decoded data to Colonel Roberts, and get me the Security Council. Phase 2 begins now." On the shadow of Earth, Roberts reviewed the alien communications. The Starborn Empire had revealed their weakness. Their pride and rigid thinking made them vulnerable to human ingenuity. They couldn't adapt quickly, couldn't understand why their superior technology had failed them. "All ships, begin repair operations," she ordered, "and start studying those alien ship pieces we collected. The Starborn will be back with a bigger fleet, but next time, we'll be even more ready. They thought they could just take Earth without a fight. Now they'll learn what happens when you wake a sleeping giant. The stars seemed to shine brighter as Earth's defenders prepared for the next round. Humanity had survived its first interstellar battle, and they had no intention of losing the war. 2 weeks after Earth's victory, Dr. Bill Mason stared at his computer screen in the underground research facility beneath the Rocky Mountains. His eyes were red from lack of sleep, but he couldn't stop now. The alien code was finally starting to make sense. "Admiral Miller needs to see this right away," he said, reaching for his phone. Within an hour, Miller and Colonel Roberts stood in his lab, watching as he explained his discovery. "Look at their communication patterns," Mason pointed to the screen. "The Starborn don't just share battle plans. They have to report everything up their chain of command. Every single decision needs approval from higher ranks. Their entire empire is crippled by bureaucracy." Roberts leaned closer to the screen. "That's why they couldn't adapt during the battle. Their ship captains were waiting for orders instead of taking initiative." "Exactly," Mason nodded. "But there's more. Their supply lines are stretched thin. The Starborn expanded too fast, trying to control too many worlds. Each new conquest weakens them. And Earth." He paused for effect. "Earth is the farthest they've ever reached from their homeworld." Miller's eyes lit up with understanding. "Show me their supply routes." Mason pulled up a 3D map of nearby star systems. Red lines showed the Starborn supply chains, all leading back to their homeworld. They have to maintain these supply lines. Their ships use some kind of special fuel they can only produce in their core systems. Without it, their advanced weapons don't work. Roberts studied the map carefully. "If we cut these supply lines, their ships will be stranded. They'll be limited to their backup power systems, just like we forced them to do in Earth orbit. Better yet," Mason added, "I found something in their psychological profiles. The Starborn believe they're superior to everyone else. They've never lost a war, never failed to conquer a target. Defeat doesn't just hurt their military, it shakes their entire society's belief system." Miller walked around the holographic display, thinking hard. Earth's fleet had grown stronger since the first battle. They had built 3 new ships using captured alien technology, and every human vessel now carried improved weapons based on Starborn designs. "We can't match their numbers," Miller said finally. "But we don't have to. We just need to hit them where it hurts most: their pride and their supply lines." Roberts was already forming a plan. "We send small strike teams, fast ships, crews who can think on their feet, hit their supply ships, destroy their fuel stations, and vanish before they can respond. Make them look weak in front of the worlds they've conquered. And we broadcast everything," Mason added excitedly. "Their communication networks are vulnerable. We can show their failures to every species they've enslaved, spark a rebellion across their entire empire." Miller nodded slowly. "Dr. Mason, how quickly can you translate our messages into languages their slave species will understand?" "Give me 2 days. I've almost cracked their language database." "Good. Colonel, prepare the fleet. We strike their nearest supply line in 3 days. Choose your best stealth ships and most creative captains, and get Captain Reed back from Mars. I want the Night Striker leading one of the strike teams." Roberts saluted and left to prepare the fleet. The next phase would be different from defending Earth. They would be operating far from home, deep in enemy space, but humans had centuries of experience fighting against superior forces, using guerrilla tactics and hit-and-run strikes. Miller stayed behind, watching Mason work on the translations. "How many slave species are we talking about?" "At least 7 major ones," Mason replied. "All technically more advanced than us before the Starborn conquered them. But they followed the rules, fought the way they were supposed to. They never thought to hide ships in asteroids or build backup systems for everything." "Then it's time they learned how humans fight," Miller said quietly. "Send me those translations as soon as they're ready. We're not just going to defeat the Starborn. We're going to tear their empire apart from the inside out." The pieces were falling into place. Earth wasn't just fighting for survival anymore. They were about to teach the galaxy's oldest empire a lesson about underestimating humanity. Captain Reed watched from the bridge of the Night Striker as another starborn fuel station erupted into flames. His ship slipped away into the darkness of space before the enemy could respond, leaving chaos in its wake. This was the 12th successful strike in 3 weeks. "Send the video to Dr. Mason," he ordered. "Let him broadcast it across their networks." The crew worked quickly, knowing they had minutes before starborn reinforcements arrived. But they didn't need long. Speed and stealth were humanity's greatest weapons in this war. 3 systems away, Colonel Roberts led a larger battle group through the wreckage of a starborn supply fleet. The aliens had tried to adapt, adding more guard ships to protect their supplies. It hadn't helped. Human ships struck from multiple directions at once, their tactics changing with every attack. "Status report," Roberts called out as her ships regrouped behind a large moon. 6 supply ships destroyed, 3 guard ships disabled. Her tactical officer reported. "No casualties on our side. And look at this, Colonel. The local species are starting to fight back. The starborn just lost control of 2 mining colonies in this sector." Roberts smiled. The plan was working better than they'd hoped. Every victory, every broadcast of starborn ships running away, inspired more resistance. The empire that had seemed invincible was starting to crumble. Back on Earth, Admiral Miller coordinated the overall campaign from the underground command center. The main screen showed a sea of green dots representing successful strikes across starborn territory. Dr. Mason stood nearby, monitoring the enemy's communications. "Their leadership is in chaos," Mason reported. "The lower ranks are starting to question orders. Some of their ships aren't even leaving port because their crews are afraid of running into human vessels." Miller nodded. "And the slave species? Better than we expected. The rock people of Centauri Beta have completely overthrown their starborn governors. The crystal beings in the Orion sector are sabotaging fuel production. Even the gas giants of Epsilon are hiding rebel ships in their atmospheres. They learned that trick from watching us." A lieutenant rushed in with a new report. "Sir, the starborn just abandoned another sector. They're pulling back to protect their core systems." Miller studied the tactical display. Earth's fleet had pushed through 3 star systems in less than a month. Not through brute force, but through careful planning and unconventional tactics. They never fought fair, never gave the starborn the set-piece battles they wanted. Instead, human ships would appear from nowhere, strike hard at weak points, and vanish again. They hid in asteroid fields, inside gas giants, even in the coronas of stars using their advanced heat shields. The starborn never knew where the next attack would come from. But it wasn't just military success that was winning this war. Every human victory was broadcast across the starborn networks, thanks to Mason's code-breaking. Slave species that had lived in fear for centuries watched mighty starborn ships flee from human attackers. They saw the Empire's mask of invincibility shatter. "New message from Colonel Roberts," the communication officer announced. "Her fleet just linked up with Captain Reed's group. They're ready to push into the next sector." Miller checked the strategic map. They were getting close to the starborn homeworld. The aliens had ruled the galaxy through fear and overwhelming force, but they had never faced an enemy like humanity, an enemy that turned their own pride and rigid thinking against them. "Tell Roberts to proceed with the next phase," Miller ordered, "and get me the Security Council. They need to see these casualty reports." The reports showed something remarkable. Despite fighting across 3 star systems, Earth's losses were minimal. The careful, strategic approach was working. They weren't trying to beat the starborn at their own game. They were forcing the aliens to fight a human kind of war. Mason looked up from his console. "Sir, we're getting new signals. The starborn leadership, they're starting to panic. They've never lost territory before, never had to retreat. Their whole society is based on being unbeatable, and now they're learning." Miller finished the thought. learning what happens when you push humanity too far. Prepare the next set of broadcasts. Let's show them what else they have to fear. The war that had started with an attack on Earth was now reaching the heart of the Starborn Empire. And humanity was bringing something new to this galactic fight: the art of asymmetric warfare on a cosmic scale. Admiral Miller stood on the bridge of the Shadow of Earth, now Earth's flagship, as they approached the Starborn home system. Colonel Roberts had given him her ship for this final mission, knowing that humanity's leader should be here for what came next. Through the main viewport, he could see their entire fleet assembled. 30 ships strong now, with vessels from 3 different rebel species joining the human forces. The Starborn homeworld, Celestia, glowed like a blue jewel in the distance. Ancient cities covered its surface, filled with towers that reached into the clouds. This was the heart of an empire that had ruled the galaxy for 10,000 years. And now humanity had brought the war to their doorstep. "All ships report ready," Captain Reed announced from his tactical station. The Night Striker had earned a place in this final battle, its hull marked with dozens of victory symbols. The rebel fleets are in position on the far side of the system. Miller nodded, reviewing the battle plan one last time. Dr. Mason's intelligence had been perfect. The Starborn had withdrawn almost their entire fleet to defend their homeworld. Hundreds of ships formed a defensive shell around Celestia, their weapons charged and waiting. "Open a channel to their capital," Miller ordered. "Let's give them one last chance." The main screen lit up with the image of the Starborn High Command. Tall, elegant beings with silver skin and eyes that glowed with internal light. They had seemed so terrifying when they first appeared over Earth. Now they just looked afraid. "This is Admiral James Miller of Earth's fleet," he announced. "You attacked our world, threatened our people, thought we would be an easy conquest. You were wrong. Surrender now, and we'll show more mercy than you showed us." The Starborn leader's voice shook with rage. "Mercy? From primitive monsters who hide in shadows and refuse to fight with honor? Never. We are the Starborn Empire. We have ruled the stars since your people lived in caves. And that's exactly why you're going to lose," Miller replied calmly. "You never learned to adapt, never had to think differently. Look around you. Half your empire is in rebellion. Your supply lines are cut. Your slave worlds are free. And now we're here, above your home world, because we did what you thought was impossible." He turned to Dr. Mason. "Show them what we brought." Mason activated the holographic display, revealing schematics of the Starbreaker, humanity's newest weapon. They had built it using a combination of Earth science and stolen Starborn technology, but with a uniquely human twist. The Starborn leaders visibly recoiled when they recognized components of their own planet-killing weapon, redesigned and improved. "This is your last warning," Miller said. "Surrender your fleet. Free your remaining slave worlds. End this war." The Starborn leader stood tall, pride overwhelming sense. "We will never bow to primitives. All ships, attack. Destroy them all." Miller shook his head sadly as the enemy fleet moved forward. "They still think numbers are all that matters. All ships. Execute Battle Plan Omega. Show them everything we've learned." Earth's fleet split into smaller groups, each one using tactics perfected over months of warfare. Some ships dove into Celestia's sun, using its radiation to mask their approach. Others hid behind moons, asteroids, and even enemy ships. The rebel fleets emerged from hyperspace at precise coordinates, catching the Starborn forces in a complex crossfire. The space around Celestia erupted in chaos. Human ships darted through the enemy formation, their improved weapons tearing through Starborn shields. Rebel vessels followed paths mapped by Earth's tacticians, exploiting weak points that Dr. Mason had discovered in the enemy's defense patterns. But the real shock came when the first Starborn ships tried to retreat. They activated their quantum drives, attempting to flee into hyperspace. Nothing happened. "The quantum inhibitor is working," Mason reported with a grim smile. "They're trapped here, just like they tried to trap us at Earth." Miller watched as the battle unfolded exactly as they had planned. The Starborn fought bravely but predictably, unable to adapt to humanity's fluid tactics. Their rigid formation began to break apart as Earth's fleet struck from all directions at once. "Sir," Reed called out, "their center line is collapsing. We have a clear shot at the planet." Miller looked at the beautiful world below them, remembering the ashes of New Delhi. The Starborn had brought this war to Earth. Humanity was finishing it at their front door. "All ships, clear the target zone," he ordered. "It's time to show them the price of threatening Earth. Prepare the Starbreaker." The Starbreaker hummed to life aboard the Shadow of Earth, its power systems drawing energy from the ship's modified reactors. Admiral Miller watched as the targeting computer locked onto Celestia's capital city. Around them, the space battle continued to rage, but the outcome was already decided. The Starborn fleet was in ruins, their rigid tactics shattered by human ingenuity and adaptability. "Give me ship-wide," Miller ordered. The crew fell silent as his voice echoed through every compartment. "This isn't a moment for celebration. Remember New Delhi. Remember every human life they took, but remember also that we're better than them. We're not here for revenge. We're here to end a threat to Earth and free a galaxy." Dr. Mason monitored the weapon's power levels. Starbreaker at 90%. The targeting system is locked on their main power grid. This will disable their civilization, not destroy it. The Starborn leaders made one final transmission, their arrogance finally broken. "Please, we surrender. We'll give you anything you want." "You had your chance to surrender," Miller replied. "Before you attacked Earth. Before you killed millions of our people. Now you'll learn what humans do to protect their home." He turned to Mason. "Do it." The Starbreaker fired, but this was no simple beam weapon like the Starborn had used on Earth's cities. This was something uniquely human, a combination of stolen alien tech and Earth ingenuity. The beam split into thousands of smaller strikes, each one precisely targeted. Power stations exploded. Defense shields failed. Communication networks went dark. Within minutes, the mighty Starborn civilization was paralyzed. Their technology, dependent on a complex power grid, shut down across the planet. 10,000 years of empire, ended not by brute force, but by careful planning and precise strikes. "All ships, move to Phase 2, Miller commanded. "Launch the recovery pods." Thousands of small pods descended to the planet's surface. Inside each one were emergency supplies, medical aid, and most importantly, communication devices. But these didn't connect to the Starborn network. Instead, they linked to a new system, one built by Earth and its alien allies. "Message from the rebel fleet," Captain Reed reported. "Their ships are moving into position around the other Starborn worlds. The transmission is ready to go." Miller nodded to Mason. "Send it." Across the former empire, on every world the Starborn had conquered, screens lit up with Miller's face. The Starborn Empire has fallen. Their fleet is destroyed. Their homeworld is powerless. But this isn't an ending. It's a beginning. Earth offers friendship to all species who want to build something better. Together, we can create a galaxy where no empire rules through fear. The response was immediate. Ships from a dozen species jumped into the Celestia system, not to fight, but to help. The Starborn had ruled through force and fear. Earth was offering something different: cooperation, mutual respect, and the chance to learn from each other. Colonel Roberts' voice came through from her position commanding the relief effort. "Sir, you should see this. The younger Starborn, they're coming out to help. They're working with our medical teams, helping to restore basic services. They want change." Miller smiled. This was the real victory, not just defeating an enemy, but transforming them into something better. Earth's fleet had proved that humanity could fight when needed, but they could also show mercy. They could rebuild what they had broken. Hours later, Miller stood in the shadow of Earth's observation deck, watching ships from across the galaxy work together to help the Starborn people. Dr. Mason joined him, holding a data pad with reports from across the former empire. The quantum inhibitors are being dismantled, Mason reported. Relief supplies are reaching every affected world, and 17 species have already asked to join Earth's alliance. They're calling it the Federation of Free Worlds. Not bad for a bunch of primitives who didn't know aliens existed a few months ago, Miller said quietly. Send word to Earth. Tell them it's over. Tell them we won. And tell them to prepare for visitors, friendly ones this time. The stars seemed brighter somehow as Earth's fleet began its long journey home. They had gone to war to protect their world, but they had achieved something greater. Humanity had proved itself not just as warriors, but as leaders. The galaxy would never be the same.